What I want to tell you here, Noli, is that Dana White is completely out of bounds and full of shit when it comes to Francis Ngannou.
Yeah, I don't think that's an overreaction. I think, it's become escalatingly personal in a way that I don't think is necessary. There again, he's talked to, he's been, I feel like his rhetoric or whatever you want to call it has gotten increasingly more and more and more and more personal. I mean, there was nothing more personal than saying somebody's not a good human, right? So when that's the end of, the end of the road that we've seen so far, who knows what's going to come next. But he was talking a little bit out of both sides of his mouth too about the pay. Francis is all about the money, but then he would have got paid more if he stayed here, which, I mean, to me, reading between the lines of that, and I think there was something that he said on the Power Slap press conference that kind of indicated this, was essentially, it seems like the deal that Francis was offered was probably good money, but it probably wasn't guaranteed. It was like, if Francis had won all these fights, yeah, he would have got paid more than anywhere else. But I mean, it's very convenient to leave out that piece of information, which seemed like what he was hinting at. So, yeah, I mean, I think he puts forth a persona that he says he doesn't care. You guys ask me about it, which is true. I mean, we do ask him, but to me, I think he definitely does care, right?
Yeah.
So
if he didn't care,
it's unfortunate.
Because if he didn't care, he could be the one to take the high road. Just kind of say, well, we didn't come to the deal, we went our separate ways. That's the end of that. And maybe he doesn't want to talk about it anymore. But clearly, you can tell Dana likes when he's asked these questions about Francis Ngannou. He likes, doing this whole thing. And I mean,
yeah, I mean, he said the same thing about the PFL, but he showed up with a fact sheet to the press conference. Clearly so obviously, yeah.
I mean, the thing for me, Noli, real quick, is the whole all about the money thing. Saying that as though that's a bad thing, as if being about the money isn't what this game is all about. He's a prize fighter. It's all about winning a prize. It's all about taking care of your family. And for Dana White, someone in the past who has said, this isn't a career, like you being a fighter shouldn't be a career. He's on record saying something to that effect several years back, that it's not a career and you're kind of lucky to be in this position, sort of. But, Francis got to a point. The bottom line is that Francis got to a point where he was able to beat the machine. He was able to beat the UFC machine. And that's a fact. That is a fact. He played his cards the right way, and he was able to escape the restrictive contract that the UFC holds over fighters. And for Dana White to say that doesn't bother him, it bothers him, because he doesn't want any more Francis Ngannou's situations to play out. He doesn't want that to happen. Why? Because the UFC preys on these fighters and the system against them. There's not enough fighters who are about the money, quite frankly, right? There's not enough fighters who have managers who will go to bat for them and fight for them. That's what Dana White and the UFC prey on, essentially. And that's how they become this massive, massive entity. And so, of course, this bothers Dana. There's no way around it.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I mean, the thing is, right? Like, I think there would be other ways to frame this that I think would be less confrontational and less insulting, that would also, I mean, if Dana's trying to cover the UFC's butt or make themselves not look bad, or, that having the heavyweight champion in the world walk isn't that bad. I think there's other ways that you could frame this. I mean, say like, oh, they're great. They paid him too much money. They paid him a lot of money. They paid him more than they're going to get on their return, all that sort of stuff. I think that's not unreasonable for something that you would see in other sports. I just think maybe perhaps taking this very personal approach, and it seems to be getting increasingly as worse. And I think, I don't think Francis has necessarily crossed those lines. Like, I think he's said things that are like, I can bring up the numbers, I can, do this, or Dana's mad or whatever, but it's not, I feel like there's layers of Dana's onion getting peeled back here. That's like, he didn't want to fight John. He's all about, he's greedy. Now he's not, I didn't like him. I almost cut him. He's not a good human. Like, I think to me that comes off as just a little bit, I don't know, like desperate's not the right word, but really trying to grab for something. And I remember, like, after that first Stipe fight, I have to go back and look, but I do recall him speaking in press conferences and saying something about Francis's attitude or something. There was something maybe around the time of that Derek Lewis fight. And then it kind of did fizzle. So I'm not even disputing that, like, that happened, but I think to just bring it up now, particularly where Francis went on to win the title. Again, there's ways that I feel like if you're going to cover your butt, it's one thing. I get it. He's a promoter. Promoters promote. At the same time, to kind of just go that extra mile, I think it comes across as very kind of petty to me.
Yeah. And I mean, listen, dude, it has to be said for him to go out there and say, Francis isn't a good guy. He plays a nice guy. I'm sorry, man, but the guy who was caught on camera slapping his wife has no business talking about the character of anyone else. Full stop. Like, just shut up with that. That rubs me the wrong way to no end. So
yeah, and again,
anyway.
I think when you have I don't know, I want to call it pump fake, but when you say something and you don't provide all the details, like, oh, he's not a good person. Like, why?
What
you know what I
did
mean?
he
Like,
say?
what's
What
the evidence of you saying?
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So, again, I don't know. I kind of think this will probably be the worst that it gets, but I also, it's MMA, so I won't be betting on that.
Yeah, it's MMA and it's Dana White, and it really does have the ability to get worse and more personal. And I guess we'll see, and maybe we'll be talking about it on this show again at some point in the near future. But
MMA Junkie AI.